Hello, everybody. This is Derry Wright's prompt number 13, setting with Aaron E. Moulton. Today, we're going to talk about setting. So, what is setting? It's the immediate place in which your character resides. So, today's prompt is all about kind of thinking about that place around your character. There are essential elements of setting that you want to keep in mind. There's more than this, but this is a good start, and this is what I want you to do with your prompt today. So consider these different things. Consider the micro setting and the macro setting, the big and the small. So you can think about the world, and we did a world building exercise recently, so that's a great one to look at for that. Right now, we're going to focus a little bit more on the macro, what's in the immediate surroundings of your character, and look closely at those micro details. You'll want to consider season and weather. Obviously, if it's leaves are being whipped up around your characters, you're in the fall, right? Little details like that. Snow would make a difference. How the character is feeling the weather, obviously, will be a sensory detail you'll want to incorporate. And if it's raining, that would be coming in through a sensory detail. You'll want to think about objects and architecture. So, what I often think about is scenic elements. Sometimes when I'm writing a scene and I'm putting in way too much or way too little, I try to think of it as a stage and say, okay, what would a scenic artist do for this? How would they create the architecture? What are important details? Because they can't put everything in, they have to be very selective. Similarly, a props master would be very selective and specific about the props that they're using to put in the scene. So if you think of your scene instead of in reality or as you would see in a movie, if you think of it on the stage, sometimes it helps because it's giving you a more narrow perspective. Um, a couple of key elements that you're focusing in on. You can also think of that as in camera angles, right? Your camera's not picturing the entire city in a lot of cases. If it's from the perspective of your character, it's a more narrow camera shot or camera angle. So think about the most important details. If you were going to free write it, you could do all the details and then you can pick and choose what details you want to throw into your scene around other important things like dialogue and action. Now, think about time of day and lighting. Obviously, lighting would be different for different times of day, but lighting is also important in terms of mood. So if you're trying to create a specific mood, you can manipulate that. You can make it more spooky with a darker weather, or you could add something more glimmery if it's supposed to be a more magical feel. So lighting is really important. I would definitely give people a recommendation of reading books and even highlighting. I know not everybody likes to write in books. You could put little sticky notes in if you don't like to write, but just find every little element of lighting and see if it's reflecting mood or character emotion, because it often will. And it's very interesting. Obviously, time period is going to change, make your architecture or all your physical elements different, your characters as well who are within the scene. But every single place also has a history. So you do want to think about what the history of the place is. And are there little things you can still see? I mean, you step out on your lawn, that lawn has a history. It's not always been your lawn, it's been other people's lawns. There's been other people running around on it. There could have been a battle on it at one point. Are there any pieces of history that you can still see within that setting? And finally, I want you to think about it as seen by the protagonist. This writing prompt, you're not going to look at it through your protagonist's eyes unless you really want. You can totally take it in that from that angle if you'd like. But what I want you to do is just consider it from your protagonist, but you're going to write everything you know about the setting. And then if you were to write a scene with your protagonist, then you're going to pick and choose what little elements you need. Obviously, protagonists would see, or whatever character would see, the setting through their own perspective, which means you would use the sensory writing. And also what I like to call correlation, meaning that the character will view their environment based on their perspective, and that can also be based on their mood and emotions, right? So if a character is stepping out into a sunny day, but they despise, the world and joy and cheer, that will be incredibly grating for them. So their view of the world will look very different than a jolly, happy little kid running out to play. So that's obviously very interesting to think about because your character and how they perceive things can change the setting and what the setting means. So that's worth considering. For your writing prompt, what I want you to do is pick a place from your current work in progress. If you don't have a work in progress, you can choose a memory and just use that. And then you're going to explore the setting and the story and consider and incorporate all the essential elements we just talked about. So you're free to back up to the previous screen, look at all of those, and just write as much as you know about your setting. And then once you've got it well fleshed out and you've looked at it really carefully in your mind's eye, then you could work on a scene with your character. I would love to see these. If you have any questions whatsoever, please shoot me an email at erinr@dairypl.org. And if you would like to share online, you can hashtag Dairy Rights. I hope you have fun with it, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay creative.